Gamer Subs is coming in hot with a new waifu cup Oki, aka your new personal muscle mummy. If you like to want to pick up some Gamer Subs or get your own personal waifu cup, this goes live late today and you can get a 10% discount by using code Espada. Alright lads, so we're finally updating our Brave Battle tier list. This is something that I've been getting a lot of requests of, especially with the release of 1000 Blood War Yamamoto, and truth be told, I should have done it when the character first released. However, I'm glad I waited, mainly because we did just recently get a resurrection, in this case 1000 Blood War Ichibe, and the upgrade overall made him a solid character, and had I done this video a month ago, then it would have been a tad bit outdated. But having said that, looking at our tier list, you'll notice a lot of differences if you looked at our previous tier list, which we did do over 7 months ago. The main difference now is that we've cut out a lot of characters that, quite frankly, just weren't worth talking about. So by cutting out a lot of characters, this tier list should be a lot more concise and who's actually good in this meta. And alongside that, we've also added a notable SP character section in case you're looking to use an SP character. I once more didn't want to clutter the list, so I chose to put them all in one section because essentially they all perform the exact same, with a few exceptions, and those exceptions I did actually add onto the list. So with that said, let's start talking about it. We're going to work our way up because I feel like it's easy that way, so starting off in B tier. In this case, these are just 4 characters that are still worth putting into your team if you have no other better option. And in this case, we have Chad, Ikaku, Kenpachi, and also Kanfi on World Noitora. And these characters are in B tier mainly due to the fact that their damage output isn't nearly as high as you want it to be. Compared to some of the newer characters that have Flurry +2 with extra effects, these characters basically just have Flurry +1 and a somewhat low bruiser. Alongside that, they don't have any utility effects that you would also want to see in a Brave Battle character. No invincibility, no ignore invincibility, no ignoring Last Ditch Survival, for example. They were once one of the better characters for this mode, but are now mainly only used in teams that have them max transcended. And you can definitely get away by using them in your team. Chad, for example, is commonly built with a full defense build, and he does work for the most part. They're good filler slots if you have no other better character to use, but you definitely would want to replace them. In Noitora's case though, I do want to particularly talk about him. He is a character that will hopefully eventually get a resurrection sometime next year maybe, and that resurrection definitely will knock him up into A tier. Since he is a limited character, he should get some special treatment, very similar to the likes of 4th anniversary Full Hollow Ichigo, Yachiru, and also Ichibe. So in his case, he can definitely get up into A tier if his resurrection does actually make him better. Moving up into A tier though, we just have a whole wild card of characters here. Starting off with Yachiru. Damage output isn't the highest, and that definitely is what brings her down just a tad bit, but thanks to her resurrection, it does make her a tad bit more usable since she does actually ignore invincibility. This can make her good against any invincible character, more so the other 3 invincible characters that are in her particular tier: Yamamoto, Jugrim, and also Tsukishima. Ideally, if you want to use this character in this meta, you want her duped out, and she can perform quite well against those 3 particular characters. Other than that though, since she herself is a captain, she's quite the easy target against any S tier character that has Captain Killer, and that's what kind of brings her down just a tad bit. Moving into Arskin though, he's ideally wanting to always be used against Ichibe since he is a direct counter to him, but what I like about Arskin, and it is definitely a niche, keep that in mind, is his debuff effects. For those that aren't aware, it's always recommended that you bring a booster in your team since you get a 33% attack, focus, and defense increase. A debuff effect is essentially the opposite of that, lowering the enemy's attack, focus, and defense by 33%. So Arskin's usability in this meta has always been about negating their team buff, lowering their stats, and at the same time giving you that stat advantage. And that's the best way to use him. Unfortunately though, since he was designed to counter one character in particular, and of course him releasing all those years ago, his damage output isn't nearly as high as what you'd like it to be. So he's not really going to be a powerhouse character in your team, but he can give you an advantage if the debuff does go off after their boost effects. Moving on to Full Hollow Ichigo, thanks to his most recent resurrection, he does pick up 10-second invincibility, and that overall makes him a lot more usable when put against SP characters, for example. Since he's invincible, he takes no damage, right? He's good to use against those characters. He also got a damage increase, so Flurry +1 and a 50% bruiser at this point in time is respectable. It's good enough for you to put him into a team. Since he also does have Captain Killer, he can do some decent damage against captains, but he isn't going to be a powerhouse carry character. Again, once more so just a filler slot to put on your team. Next up, we have Tsukishima. He's once more another invincible character. He's a lot more usable because he also doubles down as a team booster, boosting your team's attack, focus, and defense by 33%. So if you are looking for a team supporter, a boost character in particular, he makes it a good option since he is helping your team out with those extra stats. But if you are using Tsukishima, ideally you want to put him against someone like Jugrim. The character he was essentially designed to counter makes it a good option against Chad since Chad himself does not have invincibility, and of course he's also good against any SP character. Next up we have Beyond Bankai Yamamoto. He himself is invincible and he can also go through invincibility. So he's really good and was mainly designed to counter someone like Tsukishima and also Jugrim. If you are using this character in your team, ideally that's the character you want to put him against, since for 10 seconds he'll be taking no damage. Tsukishima and Jugrim will both be doing no damage to him, but since he can go through it, he will also be damaging them. He's also immune to weakening and drain, the two status elements that both Jugrim and also Tsukishima can inflict, so you won't have to really worry about the character getting inflicted with a status element. We then have Jugrim, and while Jugrim was technically a character that is hard countered by Yamamoto, I think Jugrim's actually seen a lot more usability in this meta, many thanks to the fact that we do have two Technique ST characters that are widely used in a lot of different teams. And at the same time, with the recent resurrection of Ichibe, I'm starting to see Ichibe used a tad bit more, and Jugrim in particular was designed to counter Ichibe, for example. So with more characters for this character to counter, or target more so, I feel like he's overall just a bit more solid. Main thing about him though once more is that he is invincible, so he's also good against SP characters. Then we have Ichibe, newly resurrected, overall makes him a solid character, and with his resurrection, he did pick up Ignore Invincibility and also Ignore Last Day Survival. Two really good skills for a Brave Battle character to pick up, and it's thanks to those skills that I think he is at the top of A tier. He's overall now a solid character to put against Jugrim, a character that was designed to counter Ichibe. He's good to put against someone like Chads, and surprisingly he's also a pretty decent counter. I say counter lightly, but still a good option to put against someone like Isshin, who as you can see in our tier list is at the top of SS tier. Isshin is a very commonly used Brave Battle character, and the fact that Ichibe can go through invincibility allows him to be a decent option to go against him, right? Again, ideally you want Ichibe to have a lot of dupes invested into him to give him that advantage, the stat advantage. But overall, thanks to his resurrection, Ichibe is a solid Brave Battle character, and I was very surprised by his performance, which we did showcase over a week ago. Then going into S tier, first up we have a fan of Vershi White. You might be surprised on why he's actually in this tier list, but let's explain why. For starters, of course, his damage output is high with a Frenzy +2 and also 80% SP boost when you do inflict a status element. He does have no affiliation and also Sword Per Killer, so against any non-invincible character, he is going to be doing more damage to them, which for the most part is a large majority of the characters in S tier, most of them being Soripers. At the same time, someone like Yuha, for example, is a non-invincible character that is a no affiliation character. So not only will White have attribute and also killer advantage against him, the main reason why I put him in S tier is because he has a very fast activation time on his S tier 3 most importantly. If you have this character duped out, there's a good chance you're going to one-shot someone like Yuha with just one strong attack 3. Of course, his performance does vary on how many dupes of the character you have, but he was surprisingly a very solid option in Brave Battles, and his SA3 almost rivals someone like Macy, for example, who as of right now has the fastest activation time on her SA3. So with White, ideally you want to put him against non-invincible characters, mainly against any Soripa or no affiliation character. After that we have Beyond Bankai Kenpachi, overall just still a solid character, good damage output with Flurry +2, can ignore invincibility, and also can ignore Last Day Survival. So this makes him overall a very solid character to put in any team. He was however designed to hard counter someone like Yamamoto, so if you ever do see any Beyond Bankai Yamamotos in a team and you have this character, you ideally want to put him against him. He has a captain killer, so he's good against any other captain, but compared to some of the newer Brave Battle characters, the other characters in S tier for example, he doesn't have any special effect about him. He's really just a beat stick, a character that can do a lot of damage but can also take a lot of damage back. Because moving into our next character we have 1000 Year Blood War Chad. Chad himself has a good damage output thanks to his Flurry +1, and also, when an enemy isn't inflicted with a status element, he gets 100% more damage. Alongside that, he also is a pretty good team booster, because in this case he does come with the booster skill, which takes a normal boost effect and makes it even better. In this case, by using his SA2, you're giving your entire team a 43% attack, focus, and also defense increase. Since he himself is a human, very rarely does anyone have killer against him. He's good against the two technique characters that are commonly used in this meta, and he's also good against any captain you put him against. Unfortunately, the character itself doesn't have Ignore Brave Battle invincibility, so if you put him against any invincible character, he will struggle. But other than that, there's a lot of characters that he can go against, will do good against, and again is also supporting the team. After that, we have Beyond Bankai Sajin. In his case, a really high damage output, because for the first 10 seconds he does get Flurry +3. He can ignore invincibility, he can prevent last-ditch survival, and under 50% stamina, he takes 50% less damage. The special thing about him is that he did come with 2 killers, that being no affiliation and also human, and he's also immune to drain and paralysis, which is what Yuha in particular has on all of its attacks. So he was actually designed to counter 2 characters, the 1000-year Bloodwatch Chad that we just talked about, and of course he's going to be really good against him since he does have attribute and also killer advantage, but he was also designed to go against Yuha, and since he's immune to the 2 status damage that Yuha can inflict, you would think that this character is an easy go-to counter. Unfortunately though, since he himself is a captain, Yuha also has killer against him, and that makes it so he sometimes struggles against any Yuha that you put him against. It's kind of 50-50, sometimes he kills the Yuha, sometimes he doesn't. He's not as reliable as you would want him to be, so while he might not be the go-to Yuha counter, he's still an overall solid character to put against him, against any Chads, and can be decent to go against a very popular power character, that of course being Ishin. Next up we have Oko. Oko is a really solid Brave Battle character, and what I like about him is that he is a premium Brave Battle character. Most of the characters that we have been talking about are limited and therefore harder to get dupes of, but in Oko's case you might eventually get this character max transcended. And if you do, he makes you a good counter against any captain in the meta, and that's ideally where you want to use him. Only put him against captains, because if he's against captains, he's really good. If not, he's an F tier character. He's a very easy target, so keep that in mind. And the reason for that is because of how he was designed. He himself, of course, does have a captain killer. He isn't a captain, so most characters in the meta won't have killer against him, but he also comes with 50% chance to dodge captain attacks. So half of the time a captain hits him, he's dodging it. Alongside that, since he does have counterattack, when you do dodge, you deal damage back to them, and at the same time he also has Brave Battle counter, so when they do damage to Oko, he's also damaging them back. So in the case when he's up against a captain, no matter what, when they use an attack against Oko, they're taking damage back. And since he's a technique character, he's great to put against someone like Sergeant, for example, but other than that can also be really good against Kuriyashiki, Kenpachi, and even the best Brave Battle character like Yamamoto, but at that point you would really want to have the dupe advantage. After that though, we have Kuriyashiki. Overall, just a very solid Brave Battle character with a really high damage output thanks to his Flow +2 and also Bruiser value. He gets stronger and tankier under 50% stamina. He can ignore Last Ditch, and he can also ignore Brave Battle invincibility. And of course that means he's a great character to put in any team, good against any captain, which is majority of the characters in this meta, and of course makes quick work of any speed character, which now thanks to the EGB resurrection, we're seeing more speed characters in this meta. That then leads us into the 2 SP characters that are really worth talking about, in this case Macy. Now the main reason why I do believe Macy is one of the better SP characters in this meta, and someone that I still use on my team on a regular basis, mainly comes down to her SA3. It's just ridiculously fast. And due to her high damage output, she can make very quick work of any non-invincible character. And that's how you want to use her. If there is a team of 2 or 3 non-invincible characters, put Macy in your team, and if you have her built up, potentially even dupes invested into her, there's a good chance she's going to one-shot them within the first millisecond of a game beginning. Alongside that, what separates her compared to most other SP characters in the meta is that she does have a Vortex SA2, a Trucking Vortex SA2 more so. So if someone does have large survival, she can let down that SA2, it will sit on top of their body, and when they do revive, they instantly get put back down. It's very similar to Aizen, and you could argue that she's actually a better character than Aizen, and that would come down mainly to her SA3, but I feel like Aizen has better survivability, and that's why I put him just a tad bit above her. In Macy's case, while I do think she's a great offensive SP character, she also does end up dying a lot. In Aizen's case though, thanks to the way he was designed, he can be a tad bit tankier. But Aizen's a very similar character in the way he was designed to. Again, very high damage output thanks to his Frenzy +2. He has an advantage here thanks to his kill effect being Sniper and also Captain, which is very relevant in this meta and it always has been. But thanks to the fact that he does have a 50% chance to dodge Snipers, there are times where a character will get close to him, try and hit him, and sometimes he will dodge those attacks. His SA2 Vortex again allows him to camp enemies, so if they do have Last Ditch, they will revive and then instantly die. Overall, if you're looking to use SP characters in this meta, those are by far the best 2. I use at least one of them in any given team. Sometimes, a lot of time actually, I use both of them in the same team. But that then takes us into the double SS tier. Without a doubt, the 3 best Brave Battle characters in the meta. First up, we have Ishin. In his case, he is a Sniper with Sniper Killer, so no one really in this meta has Killer against him, but he is sure to have Killer against a lot of enemies. And it's worth mentioning, very similar to Oko, he is a premium character, so you're more likely to get this character and get him duped out. But taking a closer look at this character, he has a lot going for him. For starters, his damage output consists of Fly +2, a 50% bruiser, and if you do inflict a stat summon, which in this case is Lacerate, you then do 60% more damage. He can prevent Brave Battle healing, he can go for invincibility, while at the same time having invincibility himself, and he also does prevent large survival. Essentially, this character is everything you want to have in a Brave Battle character. He's good against any swiper in this meta, and he's also really good against, of course, SP characters. SP characters at the time of his release were running amok in Brave Battles. There was nothing really stopping them until this character came around. He's also kind of a hard counter to SP characters since he can inflict Lacerate, which would stop them from even using their strong attacks. I made a video a while ago talking about the 3 types of teams that you have in Brave Battles: a non-invincible team, an invincible team, or an SP team, and the way Ishin was designed is that he's a character that can be thrown into any team. So he has a lot of usability, and that's what makes him an SS tier character in my opinion. And as already mentioned, the great thing about him is that he is premium, so you're more likely to get him and also get dupes of him, which will allow him to be a mainstay in a lot of teams, especially as we go by in the years. We then go to one of the better Brave Battle characters in this meta, a character into recently was the best Brave Battle character in the game, and that of course is Yuha. And there's a lot of great things about this character. First up, let's talk about his damage output. Since he himself is a no affiliation character, most characters in this meta don't have killer against him, unless they were specifically in mind to counter him, for example. But he himself does have a captain killer, which is very relevant. There's a lot of captains in this meta. Alongside that, he has Fly +2, and he also gets 20% more normal attack damage when your ally or enemies are defeated. So in the potential chance it comes down to a 1v1 and Yuha is last alive, at that point in time he's going to have Fly +2 with an 80% bruiser. That's really powerful, especially considering the fact that he also is a team booster. So not only is he a really high damage dealing character, countering most characters in this meta, he also doubles down as the team booster, the support character, and the best team booster in the entire game. And that's mainly due to the fact that he also has the booster skill. So very similar to Chad, for example, he's boosting your team's attack, focus, and defense by 43%. He then, of course, comes with some utility effects as he does prevent last-ditch survival. He can ignore Brave Battle invincibility. Under half stamina, he takes 50% less damage. And he also has Drain and Paralysis on every attack except his SA2. This is kind of an underrated feature about the character because he can actually win games because of that. Once you inflict the paralysis, it's basically game over for most characters out there. And most characters in the Brave Battle meta aren't immune to paralysis. So if you inflict a stat summon, it's pretty much an easy guaranteed win against the opponent he's going against. So overall, what makes Yuha an amazing character in this mode is that he's a really high damage dealing character, can be quite tanky, is basically a counter against most characters in this game modes, and at the same time, he's running your entire team with 43% attack, focus, and also defense. And usability is absolutely unmatched in this game mode, and as of right now, the only way to counter Yuha is to of course use the newest and best Brave Battle character, or to use an SP character. He isn't invincible, so he isn't really the biggest threat, but if you aren't using an SP character, yeah, he's definitely a threat. But even if he does die, he's still providing the team with the extra stats. And that's very important about the character. As already mentioned, every team should have some type of team booster in their team, and as of right now, Yuha is that. So most teams in Brave Battles should consist of one Yuha. But of course, being the best Brave Battle character in the game makes you a very easy target for a future Brave Battle character designed to specifically counter you. And in that case, we have the new 1000-year Blood War, Yamamoto. In his case, he has no affiliation and also Captain Killer, so he's great against Yuha and great against any other captain in this meta. He has the highest damage output in Brave Battles as of right now, thanks to his Flyer +2. For the first 10 seconds of Brave Battles, he has Flyer +3, and every time an enemy or ally is defeated, he then gets an additional 20% normal attack damage. That right there is absolutely insane. Additionally, he has some utility effects, since he can ignore Brave Battle invincibility. He himself has Brave Battle invincibility, making him a great character to go against any SP character. Under half stamina, he decreases the damage taken by 50%. He can ignore last survival, and he also can guarantee to inflict status augments against any heart no affiliation character in the game. Now, the status augment he can inflict is Lacerate and also Burn, so those two damage over time status augments will not only do damage against Yuha, it will also stop your opponent from using their strong attacks. So the idea in mind is that it's supposed to stop Yuha from getting his team boost off. And he's very consistently doing that as well. But even in the off chance that Yuha does get the team boost off, Yamamoto also comes with a debuff effect. And for those that forgot, as we did talk about with our skin, not only does it cancel the buff effect, it also lowers their attack, defense, and focus by 33%. So not only does he have the highest damage output in the entire game when it comes to a Brave Battle character, he's designed to hard counter the second best Brave Battle character in the game. He's great against SP characters, great against any captain, but he can most importantly give you the stat advantage. And that is of course thanks to his SA2 debuff. These two characters in the same team will not only give you a 43% attack, focus, and defense increase, it can also lower their attack, focus, and defense by 33%, giving you a massive stat advantage to a point that you could potentially win against teams that are significantly more invested in. Yamamoto as a character in this mode is absolutely ridiculous and should easily be thrown into any team if you do have this character. And again, works quite well despite him being a counter with Yuha. And I do want to mention too, in Yuha's favor, is that because Yuha can go for invincibility and is a hard character with Captain Killer, if you have the start advantage, let's say more Transcendent investment, you can also make quick work of Yamamoto, so keep that in mind. Despite Yamamoto being a counter to Yuha, in some ways, Yuha can also be a counter to Yamamoto, so keep that in mind. It's kind of like back and forth with these two, which of course makes sense. It's Yamamoto and Yuha. It makes sense lore-wise. But with that said, that was the video for today, going over our updated Brave Battle tier list. Despite Kelev's introduction of more invincible characters, the Brave Battle meta is still kind of in a healthy position, and there's still a lot of different teams composition that you can use. For those that are wondering, this is my particular team, and I have a pretty high win rate, right? At the end of the day, you choose who to go against, so don't go against teams that you know you're going to lose to. Either way though, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Take care, and peace.